everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Hope you're all doing well today. This particular video has been specially requested by a couple of my students, and I've also feel that this is something that everybody preparing for Ielts should know about it. Now, a really important part of our speaking exam is when we are told to go ahead and use idioms. And there are several idioms that you would find on the internet. But every idiom cannot be used for every situation. There are certain situations when the idiom has to be used well, otherwise you may come across as somebody who does not know the language really well. Also understand that idioms are something that actually have a deeper inner meaning. So you actually have to strike the inner meaning right to get to for the use of the idiom to be proper. Okay, so this video is dedicated to go ahead and help you do that. Let's start with the first idiom that I feel that you guys tend to make the most mistake in. This is called cost an arm and a leg. It's an idiom that is generally used by people whenever they want to express that something is really expensive. Now, I understand something may be expensive, but then your arm and leg is worth a lot more than just buying maybe an iPhone or probably a ticket to like a really expensive concert. You can't use cost an arm and a leg for just any situation. Okay. Remember, because it's so expensive, you should use it for situations like, let's say, if you purchased a home, if you purchased maybe a Mercedes, something that's so expensive that you actually had to sell off your arm and your leg to go ahead and buy that. Don't use it for things like buying groceries or buying flight tickets, because I don't think anything of that is worth your arm and your leg. Instead, you can use some words like it was expensive, it was overpriced, it was exorbitant. Also will help you adding high vocabulary to your speaking test. If you really want to change this idiom and use something else, a good idiom to use in cases like these are burnt a hole in my pocket. So you can say something like, I really was eyeing for the iPhone, and when I finally went and purchased the iPhone 12, it burnt a hole in my pocket. That's the right way of using something that's a little expensive. Something that's really expensive or extremely expensive, you can go with cost an arm and a leg. Then let's move on to the next idiom, which is over the moon. Now, I'm sure that you guys use this so often where for any expression that you're happy, you're like, I was over the moon. I was over the moon. Understand that this is also something that's a little tough to achieve. You can't just go over the moon whenever you want to, right? We humans can't do that. So how do we go ahead and use it? Remember that it's not something that can be used for every expression of happiness. It's used for something which was really difficult for you to achieve. Like, for example, you've actually, let's say, prepared so much for an interview, a job that you've been eyeing for, like gunning for since, I don't know, like for the longest time ever. And you finally get that job. That's when you are over the moon with joy because it was so difficult to achieve. Something like winning the lottery, like who wins the lottery? There's like 1 in a million people, right? So you should use over the moon for such expressions. If you want to replace it with a better word, you can use I was ecstatic, I was exhilarated, right? Or if you want to use another idiom, you can use I was a dog with 2 tails. A dog with 1 tail, whenever the dog wags his tail, means that it's really happy. Imagine if a dog with 2 tails and you're wagging your tail, that means you are supremely happy. That's the correct use of the idiom, okay? Because you're happy. If you've got something that you've been gunning for, that you're overjoyed to get a once in a lifetime opportunity, that's when you can use over the moon. Let's talk about the next one, which is burn the midnight oil. Now, I have seen the use of this idiom by a lot of my students, and they generally use it for situations when they've prepared something. But burn the midnight oil actually means that you've spent the whole night preparing for something, like you've done an all-nighter. So you can't use it for just any situation. It should be used for an exam, a competition where you've really spent the whole night preparing for it, learning for it, and that's when you've gone ahead and that's when you can use this idiom correctly because you've spent so much time doing this. All right. Once again, sounds completely wrong when you haven't prepared the whole night, because then this idiom would not make sense. All right. If you want to talk about preparing really putting a lot of preparation into something, the good word to use would be my preparation was extensive or thorough. Another idiom that you could use is I covered all the bases. So something like, the interviewer had already mentioned that they would ask me questions about world politics. So I covered all the bases and then went for the interview. In that way, you've mentioned that you've already spent time preparing. You prepared all corners of whatever questions may be asked of you. Or if you want to use burn the midnight oil, like let's say if you're preparing for an exam for your masters, you're going to give your MTech and you have a really tough chemistry paper coming up. Sorry, that's the wrong use of an example. A really tough coding paper come up when you're giving your MTech, right? So then you spend the whole night. So you can say, to prepare for my exam on coding the next day, I burnt the midnight oil. That's the right way of using it, right? Then moving on to the next one, which is once in a blue moon. I know that we have a lot of moon, use of moons is quite extensive in idioms, but yes. So this is also used for situations that practically never happens. Once in a blue moon means that in the sky, the blue moon only appears once a while. It's hardly ever, all right? So should be used for instances when you've been given an opportunity that probably would never come your way. Maybe something like a world tour. Who gets to travel the world in one go? Nobody ever gets that, right? And something that you've been really preparing for, you've been really trying very hard to get. If you want to change it with some other words, you can use occasionally, rarely. Don't just use once in a blue moon for any and everything. Let's say if you're planning a world trip for the longest time, and when finally you're able to save the money, or these kind of opportunities come only once in a blue moon where you get to travel the whole world. Something like that. That's the correct use of it. Otherwise, you can use on rare occasions. Like something that hardly ever happens, you can say on rare occasions is when my wife makes a delicious lasagna for me, something like that. Like if your wife doesn't like to cook and one day or suddenly she starts cooking, that's when you mention that on rare occasions, my wife makes an amazing lasagna for me, something like that. Okay, great. So I have one more, that is break a leg. Now, what does break a leg mean? It doesn't mean quite literally breaking your leg. It means that, you have gone you're going to dance, you're going to perform somewhere, and that requires you to thump or something. That's when you say, go break a leg. All right. You're using it to wish somebody good luck, because that person is going to perform something. They're going to use their leg quite a lot. They're going to dance or something. Don't use it for situations like interviews or exams, because in those situations, a good luck or a Godspeed sounds better. But break a leg is for any kind of competition when the person has to dance or something. You can use knock them dead. So whenever, let's say you're wishing somebody good luck, instead of saying good luck, you'll be like, hey, go knock them dead. Something like that. I know this is a little bit of a macabre expression, but then it's something that you can use instead of saying break a leg. All right. If somebody, let's say, for example, someone is going for India's Got Talent and they are probably performing a salsa number, that's when you can say, hey, break a leg. Something like that. That's the right use of this idiom. Great. So that brings me to the end of this video. And like every YouTuber, once again, I would say follow my page for getting regular updates whenever you want to prepare for your Ielts examination. Please subscribe, like, and share my videos, and click on the bell icon to get regular updates. Thank you so much.